First of all, Luis, thank you very much for joining me on InsurTech Talk. How are you doing today?
Having me.
My pleasure. So, ProducerFlow, what is it?
So
What
it's
do you guys
a
do?
it's a producer compliance management tool for carriers, agencies, MGAs, and all the acronyms in between. So think
Mm-hmm.
about the whole producer graph, all the producer data, onboarding, licensing, all that stuff that is essential to distribution. That's what we simplify.
Okay. So instead of someone going like, okay, you have, I don't know, let's go from my world, a data room that you go like, okay, we have in this folder this, we have the licenses, we have the articles of incorporation, check, financial, check. You go, you have your licenses, you have all the appointments, everything, and that's the flow. This
Exactly,
is
and
what you
there's
can.
and there's a lot of back and forth with checking that that data is correct, right? So, for example, licenses they need to be checked versus NIPR. The appointments they need to be submitted to the state. So there's a bunch of embedded workflows that need to work in order for that whole function that makes sure that the people that are selling insurance products can actually sell those insurance products. So it's not only about owning the data, it's about verifying the data, and it's also about data connectivity with the core systems of the carriers, whether it's the policy admin systems with their CRM, so that data is then dispersed to other systems that need to utilize it.
So most of the listeners of this podcast will be executive in the industry, investors, founders, various agencies, etc. So people who are, walk the walk and went through that path, they know the pain because you need to gather the information. You need to check. You need to double check the check, everything. And those who are not familiar, they go like, just what's a problem? It sounds to me very, very simple. As I kind of tried to simplify it a little bit earlier, it's like just throw it in the data room, which apparently it's not because it's much more complex. So, what's the pain point? Why is it?
Absolutely.
Why?
So the pain point the pain point is getting the right producers and then getting them onboarded and ready to sell, right? So it's speed to action, being able to do that in a cost effective manner. If you're doing it manually, you're receiving those via spreadsheets, and then you have Susie and Sally typing in, doing manual entry, waiting for however many days they take on their turnaround time. So it's that speed to action. And then what carriers really want is to get the right producers appointed, get them producing fast, and then getting them producing as much as possible. So speeding up their onboarding process, making their onboarding process a delightful experience, really improves the chances of getting those agents to distribute properly the products of the carrier. So, like with every product that you sign up for, if you have a poor onboarding experience, you might just sort of give up. And if you have a delightful onboarding experience, then you're like, oh, I'm excited to use this now. I'm excited to start selling here. So that's a little bit the thought process behind it.
So always start the journey with the right foot because it's going to create, the anticipation or the standard for whatever comes next. If the onboarding is right and easy, and successful, which is very important, then the rest of the journey should follow. You already kind of anchor that feeling and expectations. You're setting up a standard here. That's
Exactly.
that's not
That's
simple.
that's that's exactly where we're the starting point and where we're helping our customers.
So is that maybe I missed it? Is that inside the agency or is that to onboard a new agency on the carrier or the wholesaler side?
Yeah, so it goes two ways, right? On one hand, carriers need to make sure that their appointed agencies are compliant. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, let's take one of our clients, Branch. If they need to onboard a new agency, they can send them a link that is a ProducerFlow flow, and then they will go through that whole flow. We will check all the licenses, and then that agency will be ready to sell with Branch products. And then for the agency, it's a little bit different because agencies have producers that are employees of that agency. And then these agencies need to make sure that those producers are adequately licensed, right? That they renewed their licenses, and they may want to track their C credits and a bunch of other things. So it goes both for carriers that utilize agencies and producers to sell their products, and for agencies that need to make sure that their workforce is compliant and able to sell insurance.
And now let's go into the history and the journey that we all love. People have to talk about the journey, so we need to touch that. How did we start with this? Where's the idea came from? Why this is a product or a company?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, little background on myself. I'm originally from Spain, and I think that a lot of us, we stumbled into the insurance world. I don't think that a- any 5-year-old says that they want to be in insurance. At least my
What do
own
you
kids,
mean? I'm
they
a sixth generation insurance. No, no, I cannot
those are
even
the
get
only
that
ones
straight
actually
face.
that might be like, I want to continue the family business.
Oh,
Um,
there are, but I met what? There are a few folks. Oh my God, Louis, I forgot the last name. He's like fifth generation in the insurance industry. And there were a couple that I met that are three generations, MGAs and brokers for many, many years. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Please continue.
at the agency level, it's very common that
Yes,
agencies pass it down to their and they bring on their family members. We have a lot.
it's a family business.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, and they continue on the legacy. Absolutely. But I don't know if they want to be in there when they're 4 years old. Probably a little bit older when they see that it's actually a super exciting industry to be in. I think that once you're in it, you're like, oh, this is one of the best kept secrets. Anyways, I moved to New York to be the first employee at a company called Cover Wallet, which eventually got acquired by Aon. And over there, I was sort of the right hand of Iñaki, of the
Yeah, we'll do a
CEO.
shout out to Inaki and all the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. I mean, learned so much. Awesome team. Still, I was catching up with him last week, so
No
still very
kidding.
much friends and in touch. He's incredibly inspiring.
No,
But I was
the
like,
guy.
yeah,
No,
go
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 ahead.
go.
Sorry. No, I was saying no. The guy is most definitely inspiring. He's one of those people who run marathon, studied, did this PhD here, this event. He he corner. There was his two startups before a cover wallet. He kind of cornered me. It's like, hey, let's meet for coffee. It's like, okay, cool. And then he cornered me on joining. What was it? Something the one that is sold to Singatel.
Pixable.
Yes, yes. I remember that it was in images and mobile, and
Yes.
I was doing that stuff in those days in New York. Yeah, he's quite a remarkable person. But
Yes,
enough love
absolutely.
giving to Inaki. Let's focus on you.
He deserves it. Anyways, and then I was like, this is awesome, but I want Iñaki's job. And figured out that in order to do that, you need to start your own business. I was on a program from McKinsey to do my MBA at Berkeley, so I started that. But as soon as I walked into there, I was like, okay, goal of this is to start something. So I started Agent Zero, dropped out of Berkeley 6 months after starting, and The thesis was, if setting up a digital agency like Cover Wallet makes so much sense, let's digitize the almost 40,000 insurance agencies that are out there in the US. So that's the core thesis of Agent Zero, which is the first company that I set up. And it eventually morphed into a tech-enabled network. So we have carriers on one side, we have thousands of agencies on the other side, a tech platform, and each time that one of those agencies sells a policy with one of our carriers, we're able to monetize that transaction. One of the key successes of Agent Zero is that we've managed to develop a lot of technology to manage a lot of agencies. So we have thousands of agencies, and what others do manually, we automate. And surprise, surprise, we developed a tool to make sure that all those agencies were compliant, that they had the right E&O, the right licenses, etc. And when we were sending these agencies to our carrier partners so that they could get the appointment, they were like, you do a great job. Every single agency that you send has their licenses, has their E&O, is a good agency. And we're like, well, we've put technology behind it, so it's easier for us to do. And then they started asking, can I buy that technology? And we're like, no, it's an internal product. But then when 2 or 3 ask, and you start asking them how much they're paying for it and what the value add of these tools is, you realize very fast that there's a real business, and that there's something to that. So we decided to set up its own product. We gave it its own life, and that's how ProducerFlow started. And so far, so good. It's been a really exciting journey.
Okay, great. Happy to hear that. It was a great talking to you today. No. But again, Agent 4 is just a part of the bigger picture, the bigger company. So I assume it's just a product, or is that a complete spin-off?
As of now, it's just a product nested within Agent Zero. What the future has in stock for us, let's see. It can go many ways. We'll have to. You're on the investment side, and you know that
let me stop here and say, allow me to bring my crystal ball and tell you the future. No one knows the future, and we'll keep the viewers in suspense. What's next in terms of the legal structure, or whatever you have in plan for ProducerFlow. So what's a bigger product, or what's the company itself?
Yeah, so the bigger product, I think, that is, I was telling how we're helping with all that onboarding, right? I think there's much more to do beyond onboarding.
So we're talking about Agent Hero or Hero Agent?
On ProducerFlow. Beyond onboarding and managing all that compliance, once you've done that, you need to make sure that the agencies are actually producing. And that's a little bit what we envision for the future of ProducerFlow, the product expansion there.
Yeah, sorry, I was asking about the parent company.
Okay, the parent company. Let's see. On Agent Zero, we have a platform that allows agencies to onboard onto all these different carriers. We're producing with them, so we have a rater. We have AI tools that allow them to discover the right carrier to place the right risk. We've got tools there that help them bind the risk, and then we also pay them. So it's sort of we've sort of mapped the whole customer journey, and then given the agency the tool to put those customers through that flow and be much more effective, right? So they're sort of they can place business much easier. What the future there is a lot around AI. So we continue developing products that bring AI into the agency and that allow them with our proprietary data, with the workflows that we've got already embedded onto the platform. We're developing AI agents that the agencies can use to do a bunch of stuff that they're currently doing more manually.
So on one side, you're focusing on the, let's call it the OS of the agencies. On the other one, on ProducerFlow, it's like, let's see how we onboard the producers and work with the different compliance and make sure everything is kosher and everyone is ready so they can quickly go and start working and start
Exactly.
producing.
That is
And then you mentioned one of my favorite buzzwords, AI. And it sounds to me that, almost everything today, you can just throw it on AI and why do we need it and why we need this? Because it's basically, leveling the plane and or playing the field, whatever, the right idiom in English is. So people can do it themselves. Why do they need so many different tools?
Yeah, well, that's one thesis, right? That the software development costs are going to zero because you can just sort of prompt. I think that I think that particularly in insurance, and in insurance carriers in particular, I think they see AI as a sort of risk reward function. More AI equals more risk and more reward. And in a lot of cases,
I
they
love
don't
it.
want to.
That's a great example. Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, they don't want to assume that additional risk, because they're in the business of managing risk, and they don't want to. They have big balance sheets that if you take on a lot of risk, you can end up having very, very big losses. And a lot of what AI does has got little oversight. And sometimes if it does something wrong, in a startup, it's different because there's not a lot to impact, right? You there's the downside is sort of capped. Even in larger companies, it's like there was this the news around Amazon, right? Losing a little bit over 6 million packages because of somebody vibe coded something into their database. But when you extrapolate that to the effect that it could have in insurance companies, they're being overly cautious, right? Around
Well,
AI. And go ahead.
I'm not sure because there is a big difference between the nominal value of the risk versus the percentage, right? Because if let's say something happens, right, you as a carrier, a multi-billion dollars carrier, or even a multi-million dollars carrier, you rely on AI and to buffer, right, the responsibility you use or the liability you use a startup, and that startup is the wrapper that will provide you the AI and the risk that goes with it, and as a result, again, the buffering of it. If something happens with the startup, maybe the nominal risk is a few millions, 10 million, but for the startup, that's 100% or
Mm-hmm.
90%. That will kill that startup. That startup is
Absolutely.
done.
Yes.
For the carrier, it's less than a 10%. It's something that they can survive. However, it's still $10 million. So it's something that need to calculate it, but it goes back to the essence of insurance, which is risk averse and risk calculation, and know how to manage risk in that space. And interesting. Beside the AI insurance, they need to think about the reinsurance of those things. Yeah. Another mental note for better for research. But yeah,
We see that in the RFPs and in the vendor management processes that a lot of them have. Do you use AI? And then there are
they're already
extra.
asking for that. Oh,
and then extra 20 pages of check boxes and things to and things to go through. That's mostly on the carrier side. That I think that the the they they're somewhere differently than agencies on that risk reward function. I think that agencies being in distribution, not taking really the risk on their balance sheet, they can afford to be more AI driven. And then for the carriers, you need to keep a human in the loop. You need to have that you need to be able to take that liability, to be able to make sure that the data is very very accurate, because that's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue, in order, probably in the industry, and also to apply AI, is that the data quality, both across systems, carriers, that whole the whole data quality that then you need to use in order to layer the AI on top of it. Sometimes the data is not top quality. That's something that we're also working very hard on, to have the data very very clean, so that if our clients want to lay AI on top of it, that it can be done in a de-risked way.
it's funny enough. No matter what we are doing, at the end of the day, we are going back to talk about AI, and kind of so we are still talking about the come on, leveling the field, planing the field, plane. Yes.
Leveling the field,
Um,
no?
what? Which one? Sorry.
I think it's leveling the playing field,
Le-
but
leveling the plane, the play field. Ah, someone, if someone listen later on, they will add
leveling
in the
the playing
comment
field.
that leveling the whatever.
Two English as a second language students discussing idioms.
Yes, my favorite one is potato couch and couch potato. Never remember which one is which, and I've been making that joke for like at least 16 years at least. Um, now, so when we go back, and it seems that what will be the competition, right? So when you are looking at the different modes, or what's your advantage, it will be or that you have a unique data set,
Yes.
or that you have better relationship. But hey, who needs relationship when you have like a digital marketplace and everything is automated, blah blah blah, and which can work, but at the same time doesn't, because this is an industry that relies on people and personal relationship. Although for if it's compliance, hey, do you have the license or you don't have the license? It's very binary. And then how do you manage risk internal? What's the policy of the carrier?
I think there are a couple other modes when it comes to AI. I think that one other one is, aside from the two that you've mentioned, another one is workflows. So whether
Mm-hmm.
you're able with AI to do things with that data, to develop agents that maybe they fill out a certain form in a state to renew a license, so that you're able to develop workflows, not just a static data set that you can query. So there's definitely the workflow mode. And then I think that there's another one, that if you're so sure about how well AI is working within your ecosystem, are you able to take on the liability? So are you able to shift on and take on the liability, that if something goes wrong, you're liable? If you're able to provide that level of comfort to customers, I think that will drive adoption.
Any idea how Waymo is insured with their self-driving taxis?
I'm not entirely sure, but I saw that, I think it was Elon on the robotaxi, that he was, because they were coming up with Tesla insurance and whatnot, and he was uh, tweeting a bunch of things around the accidents per 1,000 miles that they were having, and why
Hmm.
insurance should be much lower, even though apparently insurance carriers didn't know how to price that risk also well. It was on the newer front, but it's a question, right? Like who's liable if
Yeah.
there's an accident, because it's no longer the driver. Is it the actual company? Are you I don't know.
No, that's a. Now, when it comes to Tesla and Elon, the scale is way bigger, right? If you are the self-driving car for the personal versus Waymo, with which it's a Google, and well, it's a nice Jaguar as well. You have, needless to say, in San Francisco, we have it here as well in Los Angeles. I think that they are already live in several kind of
Yeah, they're
regions, that it's very limited and very constrained where they can and cannot go after they mapped it. But Tesla is much bigger. But I brought that as an example of, okay, this is a real life example of something that is a little bit more um, uh, uh, concrete, that people can understand. It's like, yeah, this is a real life, that life and death of
yeah.
AI. Yeah.
Maybe the whole car insurance market over the next 20, 30 years, if self-driving cars reach a significant market penetration, sort of goes to near zero, right? Because then you wouldn't need that anymore.
Well,
At least how we understand it now on the personal auto insurance, right? So
well, I don't know
it's
about you. It's here the price per gallon is more than $6, but and you're also in California. But knowing California, it's never going to go down. No matter what, it's the price anywhere else for gas will go back down to normal. Here in Los Angeles and California in general, it will still be the same. They will figure
yes.
out how to add new fees, new nonsense, and now the new standard is going to be $6 a gallon, which is, yeah. Uh, and yeah, we most definitely need a new governor, but we are not going political about that stuff.
And
Um,
the new insurance commissioner too,
yeah, that's
which the voting is in June, and then the final election, I think, is at the beginning of November. So let's see, because that's also going to be talking a little bit about California politics within insurance. That's also going to be a very
maybe
interesting.
that's what I need to start to do. I never so all these podcasts, and I think now I'm 150 something episodes. It's not monetized, it's not commercial, it's to have the conversations and everything, and it was a continuation of the in-person meetings that we had in InsurTech LA pre-COVID, right? So it
Yep.
kind of shifted to a podcast because of COVID. Then since then, we are having these weekly or bi-weekly conversations. And yeah, why not start talk about politics, and maybe we'll have more and more people, and the entire we need to rebrand it, and insurance will be just a small part of it. And while we are talking about politics and nonsense and conspiracy, because the only reason that they're going to set the gas price, and why am I'm just asking questions, but why are
Yes.
they leaving? So you'll have that. What was the conspiracy that you live in like the 15 minutes kind of space or something nonsense like this,
I
which,
haven't heard that one. There's so many conspiracy theories that it's
oh
hard to
my
keep up.
God. I want to see someone live here in the hills. It's something that you'll have only, everything is 15 minutes walk. Like everything where I live, everything is 10 minutes going up. There is no down. You just climb up the hill, no matter what you do, no matter where you are. You're just walking up, which a completely different topic and has nothing to do with insurance, unless you want to insure my knees.
No,
Luis,
not
no, no.
a
Uh,
market for that.
let's go back to actually. a serious conversation and not making jokes about politics. Um, what else? And kind of what else people should know about ProducerFlow?
I mean, I think that we've largely covered it, right? We're very excited to the growth that it's experimented in the past couple of years, really helping all those clients. So I don't know if you know an MGA and a large agency, a carrier that is struggling with all things compliance, please send them my way. Since you're not monetizing this, I might as well, right? Luis at ProducerFlow.com. There you go. Short commercial.
There we go. This is so people, if you want to have better compliance for your agents and have them and create a delightful way to onboard producers and agencies, reach out to Luis and check out ProducerFlow.com.
There you go.
Now,
I might take a snippet of that and put it and
of course,
create an ad.
well, you're more than welcome. It will be in YouTube, LinkedIn, all the different locations, everywhere that we, except from TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and anywhere else that normal people actually go, because we just care about LinkedIn. So let me ask you the last question that kind of ask everyone. What other things in insurance or the insurance industry people should talk about that they are not?
Well, that's a broad one. So we've touched on, I think, the biggest topics, at least that we're seeing, which are data and AI. I think that another big one is the role of the insurance agent and the role of distribution. And there I'm a little bit torn apart because there have been just so many studies saying, oh, insurance agents are gone, like distribution is just gonna digitize. And now that sort of line of thought is coming back with AI and with a bunch of companies launching apps within ChatGPT and things like that that aim to replace the agent. But these agents, they always find the way to survive. There's something unique about that human interaction, and I'm curious to see how this new wave of digitalization plays out and the role of the insurance agent in a world where AI is omnipresent.
So it's a good point, and it takes a generation or two to educate. That's my opinion. So think about this way. Again, English, second language for us, moved to America, right, a decade plus ago. And while we know English, we don't really know English, because it's not just English, it's a certain mindset and know what's a process. There is a thing that you know, that's how it's going to progress, right? So one of my favorite examples, and this is kind of how you expect to interact with the insurance agent, it will take a generation. It's the Japanese coffee habits. No one drank coffee in Japan. And then Nestle decided, we want to get into Japan. And they realized that they need to educate the kids, because once you go through your childhood and you are being familiar with the taste of coffee, at the beginning as a snack, as a flavor, as a smell, the scent of coffee is very, very dominant. The aroma is there. So once you introduce those small snacks, later on, it's a familiar thing. And as you grow, and there is a beautiful Starbucks specialty in Tokyo, and beside that, Japanese being Japanese, everything became like an art and a masterful 5 stars Michelin barista. But that's how they build it up. And I think that Nestle, I think it's Nestle, are kind of the dominant producer or suppliers of the Japanese market in terms of coffee. It took them a generation. And it's going to be the same with AI or different robots that are going to kind of replace if we are going to give the next generation exposure to that. So when I'm reaching and working with stupid forms, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to answer here. Can I talk to a person and change it? I was going through a certain flow recently because I need to change one of my 401ks, blah blah blah. It doesn't matter where and what. And it's a voice, and sometimes they cannot understand my pronunciation or my accent. And it's like, talk to an agent. And it takes time. And go like, and those 3 seconds that is like, let me check out and try to figure out what you're saying to me. And did you mean XYZ? It's like, please, can I have an agent to talk with?
I need a
Because
human.
the 3 options that you gave me doesn't cover. Don't cover option 4 that I'm looking for. And so who knows? Maybe
Yes,
AI
so
will cover it, but
the counter argument to that is that the level of when you see the adoption of AI, it's been faster than anything else, right? When you
I
see
know.
those graphs around how long it takes people to adopt certain things, I don't know. The both ChatGPT was almost vertical adoption, and I was seeing one of the keynotes from Jensen Huang recently that he had one of the graphs
Yes,
of on
last week.
open flow adoption, and that was
Yeah.
fully vertical. So I think that I agree with you that for traditional processes, for traditional things like coffee, it takes a generation. For AI, let's see. Only time will tell. But some of the adoption curves on AI have just been. I mean, almost
Well,
vertical. So let's see how that plays out.
so start stacking up your Mac Minis for OpenClaw or old
Exactly.
laptops. Exactly.
Yes.
Luis, thank you very, very much for joining me today to InsurTech Talk. And then, of course, man, I need to start rebranding this to AI in insurance because I
For
was looking at
sure.
the past episode. Everyone is just talking about AI. So, Luis, thank you very much.
It's where the world is going. So you should get an AI avatar to do one of the interviews, and then see how that goes.
Interesting. Thank you. Have a great day. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye bye.